So yeah, Google has finally released the March update for the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 6 Pro a few days ago, and along with it came a huge list of bug fixes in this patch. Now, I know it was delayed, which made a lot of people unhappy, including myself, but much like the January update, I think that Google has finally addressed a lot of issues that people were having. And in today's video, I want to go over some of the big things from the patch notes that they released that they fixed with the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 6 Pro. So without further ado, let's jump in. As always, remember to like, share, and subscribe, and comment down below because I want to know if your Pixel 6 or Pixel 6 Pro has improved since you received the March update. So let's start with the list. All right, so jumping right in, let's start with battery and power. There's three changes that they've made or three fixes that they've made when it comes to the battery and performance of these devices. And the first had to do with a notification that I never got, but apparently some were getting inadvertent unplugged charger notifications while their phone was charging. Seems like that's been fixed for these devices. But I'm more interested in the improvements for battery and thermal performance in certain conditions. And they've also improved wireless charging in certain conditions. Now, I use the Pixel stand when charging my device because I love the aesthetic of it. I love having home controls, all of that. I've never really had any issues with wireless charging on the Pixel stand, and I know it's not the fastest in the industry, but for me, it's been pretty good. And if people are having issues, I'm glad that they fixed that. But more specifically, it seems like they've improved the performance of the phone in general when it comes to battery life. Because one of the things that I've noticed is typically when I would be on 5G or using any type of graphically intense app or even some social media apps, the phone would get very warm, not hot, but it would get warm to the touch. So if they've made changes with the battery and thermal management, then most likely you're going to see improved performance because you're not wasting energy. Anytime a phone has heat coming off of it, that's wasted energy. Yeah, kudos to Google if they finally fix that because hopefully we should see better battery life. And even though mine hasn't been terrible, it also hasn't been up there with some of the other phones like the iPhone 13 Pro Max. So I will take any type of performance boost when it comes to battery life that I can get. Thank you, Google, for putting that in here. Next on the list, they talk about biometrics. So the other thing that the Pixel 6 kind of has a bad reputation for is its fingerprint sensor. Now it is an in-display fingerprint sensor. I came from a Pixel 4 XL that had face unlock and I really did enjoy that. But even I could tell coming over to this device that it wasn't the fastest or the most accurate. Now, some of the updates that we received did improve the performance of the fingerprint sensor, and I'm glad to see that they're still addressing it. This update to me seems like it has made it better and has improved it. And I don't know if it's placebo or not, but I will take any performance increase I can get in the fingerprint sensor, even though I know it's not on par with the Galaxy S22 series. Now it's not a headache or a pain to use. I can generally just put my finger on there and it works 99% of the time for me. So I'm glad that that's been addressed. Let me know down in the comments, is your fingerprint sensor better since this update? Is it worse or has it been the same? Do you think maybe it's just placebo and we just think that it's faster? Let me know. I want to know down in the comments. So moving on, next on the list that sticks out to me, they talk about the camera. Now, one of my biggest gripes with the camera on this device is that this is just me personally. It's not a pro camera. I mean, obviously when you go into the camera app, it simplifies some things that a pro camera could do. And I do think it is a very good camera for the general masses. But there was some things that bothered me about it when it first came out, and particularly the viewfinder, like the image that you would get in the camera app from the front-facing camera in particularly would be very noisy and very grainy. And it seems like with this update, they've addressed that. They said that there are general image quality improvements in the camera preview and the capture. So what I think that means is you should see some improvement in that area. I went into the camera app and I was fooling around with it a little bit earlier today, and it does seem to be improved. The viewfinder image is a lot closer to what you'll get in the final image, even though there's a lot going on with machine learning and AI to correct the image, but it doesn't look like a potato cam like it did before. And I'm glad that they addressed that because a lot of people would look at it and think that you're going to take a bad photo and then Google does all the things on the back end to improve the photo. And it's just better to make the viewfinder look like what your final image is going to be. So I'm glad that they addressed that, because that just was, it was a nitpicky thing for me personally, but I'm sure if I felt that way, maybe there were others that did as well, and it needed to be addressed. So along with that, there's been some improvements to the camera stability and performance. So I have noticed when taking photos, it is a lot snappier to process the image. And I think that may have been a sore spot for some individuals in the past. So overall, camera should have gotten better. That's always a plus. A lot of people put a lot of stock into the camera, so that's a plus. Moving on, one of the other things that they've addressed is the network performance and the stability of Wi-Fi. Now, a lot of people were having issues where their Wi-Fi was cutting in and out. I know I had some issues even with 5G and LTE and mobile data just disconnecting randomly at some points. And the notes in here seem to indicate that they may have finally addressed that issue. Now, I haven't had any issues with the Wi-Fi dropping out since this update. That seems to have been fixed. But also, they have improved network stability when it comes to mobile data. So I don't know if that necessarily means that they've improved things with the modem, because I believe the modem was causing more battery drain than it should, especially when on 5G. And since I've gotten this phone, more often than not, I keep it on LTE as opposed to 5G, mainly just because of the network in my area. There's not a huge difference in the speed, but there is a huge difference in battery life. So if they've improved that, then that means that hopefully I can leave this device on 5G and the battery won't drain as fast, and I'll also get a more stable connection. I've had it on 5G the past few days, and the battery life hasn't taken a huge hit like it did in the past. So it seems that Google may have done something on the back end to address that. Thank you, Google, because I really want to take advantage of 5G, especially when I can utilize it. So that is a good improvement. Outside of that, the only other things that have been addressed have been things with the UI, or the user interface. Now, there are a ton of fixes for the user interface, and I didn't have a ton of issues off of the last update, but I will say, coming from the Pixel 4 XL over to the Pixel 6, I did notice a lot of graphical errors and just some bugginess with Android 12 more specifically. So it seems like they've gone through, they've addressed those issues. I mean, there might be some things that slip through the cracks, but my experience has been a lot smoother with like transitions and animations, things like being where they're supposed to be instead of having weird graphical glitches. That seems to have been addressed. So hopefully, people's experience on Android 12 should be a lot smoother, and they can move on to actually adding some more useful features that we always look forward to with more feature drops. So overall, I will say this is a good update. This is what Google needed to do. I just wish that they would have released this with the other Pixel devices so that we didn't feel like we were getting the short end of the stick when it comes to having their latest model and being last to get updates. I'm excited to see what Google has in the future as far as some of the updates. And if there are any issues, please let me know down in the comments. I would love to talk about these issues and see if there's something that maybe Google is doing to address them. But as always, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.